Hey everybody, welcome back to the Monkey Shine Lab. If this is your first time here, then welcome to the Monkey Shine Lab, everybody. We have been talking about doing this collaboration with the Figure Trap and Saga at the Figure Trap, and Andre at TheFirst117. We've been sort of three-way hockey in this idea of back and forth for a couple of months now, and so it is only correct that we finally get to it. We've been threatening and threatening. Welcome to my part of vehicles from pop culture that kind of mean something to me and that I might have a cool example of. I'm going to get a couple of really easy ones out of the way. Some very, well, I didn't see that coming sort of thing, so that hopefully some of the ones that are coming a little later are a little bit different than some of the other guys. But I bet there's going to be crossovers here. We have not discussed what the content is going to be. We barely even kind of hammered out what the topic was going to be, though I will give all credit on this one to Saga at the Figure Trap for kind of coming up with the concept. But anyway, the idea is here to present like 10 vehicles that we have, right? And at one point I was thinking, wow, man, what have I gotten myself into? I don't know if I have 10 vehicles. But then I thought about it. I was like, dude, you've got probably a lot more than that you could kind of bring to the table. So here it is. Here we go. And I'm going to try to keep this going very quickly. I'm going to try to keep it all in one take so that we're not wasting a lot of your time. That's how we like to do things around here. We don't like to waste a lot of your time, just a lot of your patience and mental energy. Anyway, starting out, the easiest one, if anybody's been watching Monkey Shine Lab for any amount of time, you will know that I am hopelessly obsessed with Batman, and that's because the 1966 TV show, which launched Batman into really being sort of a household name, if you will, it was started the same time as I was born, 1966. Yes, I'm so old I fart dust. I am the oldest of the three that are gathered to do this thing here. Thanks for letting me in, guys. Grandfather Claus. But this is the Hot Wheels ID, and this is kind of an interesting example of this. This is not the biggest example nor the most detailed necessarily that I have. But the interesting thing about this is that when I started kind of in earnest going out and picking up die-cast, and this was a very early bin find. Like, I dug all the way to the bottom of a bin and I found this at the bottom of it. And at the very bottom of all of this other, the cards were going to all grace. But so I've had this ID of Batmobile for a good long time, and I haven't even popped a hole in the card to kind of tack it to the wall or anything. It's a little bit of a good luck piece, if you will. This was the first sort of outside the main line, far out kind of hidden gem pull that I ever made while I was out there toy hunting. The next one is also fairly easy, and I was just talking about this on my channel. So this is number 2, but I'm not going in any order here. If I were to have to sit and think about the order, we wouldn't get it done for at least another 6 months. This is like the desert island thing. Like which 10 records would you bring? Like, okay, well, which 10 vehicles do you have that really mean a lot to you? The next one would be, because of all of the Saturday morning television and again, in the early 70s, you know, finding supernatural content stuff on TV was hit and miss, mostly miss. And so you fell back as a kid, you fell back on things like Scooby-Doo for your ghost fix, or, you know, whatever. And that's funny to say, right? But at one point, kids, there was no home internet. There were no home computers. If you wanted to see a movie after it left the theater, you'd probably have to go buy the Alan Dean Foster novelization, okay? I mean, we're talking just after Telegraph here, kids. The world used to be that way. And so the Mystery Machine will always be on my list of vehicles that, like, in all of pop culture, you know, that color scheme is just unmistakable. And it always to me, it brings memories of Saturday morning cereal and stuff like that. The next one, number 3, I have here another fairly good example, though also I have a bunch of examples of this particular vehicle. And I didn't really know if this necessarily met the criterion, but to me it does, you know, so I'm going to do it anyway. The Optimus Prime version. This is the way he used to look, folks. With a big flat nose, there were no flames down the side. It looked just like a flat truck. Looked like an old Mac, you know, without an engine housing on it. It was a what do they call that? A ride-on engine? Sit-on engine? SOE? Anyway, Optimus Prime was the cartoon that probably, you know, the Transformers was probably one of the last cartoons to sort of hop on my quickly focusing on girls' brain. And it was more a, oh, hey, this kid smokes weed kind of thing than, oh, he hasn't fully developed yet. It was kind of one of those deals where, you know, on the way home from school, we would stop under the bridge and then go home for Transformers and raid the cupcakes and pretzels and shit. Again, kids, it was the 80s, and we didn't have all the information that we do now. So please do your research, listen to your doctor, and make informed choices. The next vehicle I have here, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll call this number 4. If I'm not on 4, we're on 4 now. Okay? I don't know how they do things over at the First117. Scattershot, tell you they're gonna pull something out of the package and then go, no, you know what? I'm gonna set that to the side. Anyway, sorry, Andre, that didn't sound like you at all. Okay, the next one I have is, speaking of smoking a lot of weed, and Andre, and all right, let's just change the subject entirely. Another thing that we saw on TV perennially when I was a kid was the movie for the Yellow Submarine with that fantastic art. And this is probably the only version of the Yellow Submarine I've ever had in physical form. But I think it's a pretty smoking version of that classic cartoon. So number 4 is, thanks to Andre, all ball busting aside, the Yellow Submarine. and I gotta pull some stuff closer so that I'm not getting up out of camera for this other stuff, so I'll be right back. Hi, kitty. Leave me be. I gotta work. All right. Okay, welcome back to part 2 here of the 10 vehicles that we've kind of got that mean a lot to us in nerddom. The next one I've got is a fairly good example, and it's a fairly easy call. I wanted to get it fixed completely before doing this filming, but it is being a bit of a pain in the ass. This is an actual like light up sound model of the 1701A, otherwise known as the Enterprise. This is not the one from the old TV show, but that is another TV show which, like me, started its run in 1966. Unlike me, it was called off after 3 years. My parents thought about doing that, but, well, it was the 70s and they were trying different things with education. There was hope. There was hope at that time. But, you know, the Enterprise was something that it had my rapt attention every weekend. You could maybe catch 2 episodes a weekend. You know, they would show one at 5 o'clock on Saturday and then one at 6 o'clock on Sunday. Broadcast television used to be a real bitch, people. You don't know. You don't know. And count your blessings that you don't. Okay? But at one time it was catching reruns of what they wanted to show, and it seems like they never wanted to show the Tribbles episode or a few of the other ones that everybody wanted to see. But the Enterprise was a very important vehicle in my time. And I've probably built 2 or 3 plastic model kits of the Enterprise in my life. I've, probably devoted half my lifetime to watching the variety of TV shows. And I got to tell you, there's like 2 or 3 full series that I haven't even touched because I just, who's got time for that? Ain't nobody got time for that. But moving on to the next one, because that was number 5. I'm trying to keep count here. Number 6, I'm also going to talk about coming from the 1970s, and that is I got to tell you, I'm super proud of this. I scored this from a local shop here called Across the Street in Salem, Oregon. Thank you very much, people. You have treated me so well in there. I rescued this Cylon Raider. Probably should have dusted it off a little first. If you've seen the intros to my show, you've probably seen this gray disc sitting there, and a lot of you probably don't necessarily recognize it. The Cylon Raider was one of the coolest ships, along with the Viper, that I had ever seen, because in 1977 and 78, when we started to see that on television, they hadn't done anything like that. Broke the stand. But basically, like Battlestar Galactica, the original Battlestar Galactica, as cheesy as it was, gave us Jane Seymour. A moment of salute for that alone. But a Cylon Raider, that's that's number 6, I think. Am I keeping right on this? 6, 7, 9. Oh my God. Don't get old. Don't get old. So the next couple of examples of vehicles from pop culture that we have are near and dear to me, and they're a little stretching the envelope, but hopefully Saga will let me get away with these. Andre won't, because Andre doesn't let me get away with anything. He's a mean old swine. But the RX-78 from Mobile Suit Gundam. This is an HG kit that I made once upon a time. It's one of the first Gundam kits that I ever put together, and then I customized by doing all the brass work on the joints and everything else, and it's been a work of constant evolution since I first snapped it together. Back in the early 80s, a friend of mine exposed me to some untranslated VHS tapes of a show from Japan, an animated show from Japan called Mobile Suit Gundam. And I had no idea at the time what I was looking at, but I was looking at something that I was going to devote part of my life to in terms of being a fan, and never ever looking away, no matter how bad some of it got. It was the Mobile Suit Gundam and people driving robots, and it really hadn't been done like it had been done in Mobile Suit Gundam up until that point. If you haven't watched any of it, then you're not necessarily going to understand what I'm talking about. But it is an anime, and a mecha-based anime, unlike any of the other ones. There's a reason why it sits so firmly towards the top in most fans' estimation of importance. It's an excellent series, and I've got shelves devoted to characters, mobile suits from the show, and DVDs. And it's one of those that I can go back and watch again and again, and it doesn't seem to really get old. There are anime that I haven't even been able to make it through. They get old inside of 26 episodes. I'm not one of those devoted fans of the genre. So when I tell you that the writing and the concepts and things that come through the writing about the greater society that we live in and the greater world we live in, it's some depthy stuff. Anyway, that's enough about that show. But my next one also comes from Japan. And this is probably one of the most important vehicles of my growing up. And yeah, I'm going to call it a vehicle because in the last, couple of decades of making films, they have had human beings controlling this thing. This is what's called Mechagodzilla, everybody. This version is actually from 2002, so it's a much newer design, but it's the bigger one that I had available and the most easy for me to lay my hands on for this video. So, there are 3 pilots which sit in the chest area, I believe, of the suit. That's how big it is. It's stories tall. It's big enough to deal with Godzilla, okay? I mean, yeah, you gotta have a big chunk of metal to deal with a big atomic lizard. Makes sense, to me anyway. And again, so does this shirt and this beard. What does my wife see in me, folks? Moving on to my last two, okay? So that we can just kind of wrap this up. Because I know everybody, the other two guys are going to show me up so bad on this. Or at least maybe probably have less dust on their stuff. This next one has been like all of the rest, has been with me since my very, very early wee childhood, when I learned that you could tune in this weird science fiction show on public television. Every once in a while I could figure out what the time zone was for it. But the earliest memories I have of watching this show is probably from around 1973 or 4. I was a nipper. I was very, very young, but I had found this magical dude in a blue English police box who ran around the galaxy and showed me that you could actually live without weaponry, that you could outthink the people who were trying to oppress you, that there was more to be said for character than there is to be said for looks. That last one was super important to me growing up. This is the Doctor Who TARDIS, everybody. If you don't know what a TARDIS is an acronym that stands for Time and Relative Dimension in Space. It is bigger on the inside than it is on the outside, and that's why it can carry more than just one person. This is a time and space machine. It will take you anywhere and anywhen you would want to go. And it still is, at age 55, still is constantly taking me on brand new trips around the galaxy, because the show is still being produced. Started in 1965? Maybe. It actually had the chump luck of debuting on the same day that the news came out that President Kennedy had been shot in London. No, Kennedy had been shot in Dallas. Get it right. But in London, they found, that it was, people weren't really paying attention to Doctor Who at the time. So it's really kind of weird that the show took off, let alone became an international sensation. They lost a lot of episodes for a lot of years. They've been hunting them down all over the world, various copies, and finding when they can find full audio soundtracks. They've been animating the stories that have been lost to time and the ravages of people not considering that anyone would want to see this crap next year. They used to just dump the memory banks and say, okay, let's use these videotapes for something else. Let's record over them, just like I did at home at one time. And then, it was found that the BBC had accidentally recorded over some of the earliest Doctor Who episodes with, birthday party footage and shit off of television. Anyway, that is one of my most important vehicles, because that honestly did teach me so much about intellect over brute strength. So, I still pay attention to Doctor Who. I still watch it to this day, although I am a little behind. I haven't seen the new one yet, the new Doctor yet, but she looks wonderful, and it's about time we had a woman doctor. The last one. Good, because this has been going on so goddamn long. It has. It has been going on a very long time. Thank you very much for hanging out with me. And thank you very much to Saga for coming up with this idea. And thank you very much for Andre being our figurehead over at the First117. We kind of call ourselves the First117 Network. We are growing. We have a brother station in Australia who's contributing now. His name is Rusty, is Rusty's Garage Australia. We've got Customs by Eddie. Hello, Godfather. Nostalgia and Shelby Street Diecast. There are so many people who are directly affiliated with the network and just friends of the network to thank for all of this. But, seriously, Saga, thank you very much for getting involved with us a little. I appreciate that. All right, my last pick, the last vehicle, and this one kind of really makes sense, and this one's kind of goes out to Saga, who kind of put this whole thing together in the first place. This is one of my earliest horror comics. It's one of my earliest superhero comic pickups, and I think probably one of the most important visual things of my lifetime was Ghost Rider's motorcycle. Excuse me. I get choked up when I look at this. I scored this a couple of years ago from a guy who sold it to me extremely reasonably here locally. Wonderful cat. Johnny Blaze, specifically Johnny Blaze, the Ghost Rider, was one of the first vehicular media that I ever was consuming. And Johnny Blaze and the Ghost Rider are probably one of the most empathized with in terms of my own life. I always felt, and this is not, oh, woe is me, certainly, but I always felt sort of on the outside of things. A lot of us nerds did at one time. And things are so different now. With the internet, we can find each other, first of all. It's a lot easier. And we know that we're not alone. But also, culture has changed. We have changed to a degree of understanding and tolerance for this stuff socially in our country that didn't exist when I was much younger, as did not exist home computers, as did not exist public access, to the World Wide Web. That was stuff that was going on in the basement of colleges, man. We've come a long way from the Barris Batmobile and the physical flame rod coming out of the back to make it look like it's set on fire, with the jet propulsion, to the miniature models of Star Trek and Battlestar Galactica, to the giant vehicles of Godzilla and Gundam, and the limitless possibilities of vehicles, and the Tardis, we've come a really long way, because now the idea of accepting the Tardis and Lord of the Rings and Avengers films and Tony Stark and all this other stuff, it's commonplace and everybody's into it. But at one time, we didn't have what you all have right now, what I have right now. So be thankful for the age you're living in if this is your interest. It's a golden age. It really is. That's all I've got to say here. I want to thank you guys again very much. Thank you. And please head on over to the Figure Trap to watch his episode in this series. And also go to TheFirst117 and see his episode in this series. And this is hopefully not the last collaboration we will do. It's been a lot of fun to think about, and it's been a lot of fun to compile in this shifting mass of gray I have up here. Thank you very much, folks, for coming out to the Monkey Shrine Lab. That's all we've got for you. As you well know, I'm going to beg you to please like, share, subscribe, turn on the little alarm bell so that you get notifications as to when we can waste your time next. And we will see you next time, right here on the Monkey Shrine Lab. Thanks.